Hi, I'm Ariya Larker, and you are listening to my podcast, All Things Acting with Ariya, a place where I talk to creatives about this wonderful, crazy, and painful career we call acting. If you are not an actor, please do stay tuned, because though this podcast is called All Things Acting, we will also discuss the general torturous but rewarding life as a creative. Hello and welcome back to my podcast. I am so honoured to introduce today's guest. Today's guest is a commercial agent over at TTA, also known as Top Talent Agency. I'm also so excited to share that he's also my agent, so very chuffed. Jake, welcome to my podcast.
Thank you for having me, my love. It's very exciting to be here, and I'm a little bit nervous, as you know, but hopefully I'll be somewhat helpful.
I think you will. I think my listeners would have so much to gain from hearing this conversation, because a lot of conversations with agents focus, I think, mainly on sort of film and TV side. And you don't really hear much about the commercial side, but for me, especially as an actor, I think commercials are so important because, you know, one commercial could give you the freedom for the rest of the year, or at least half the year. Yeah, exactly. To work on the projects that you really want to, you know, your teeth into. And so I think commercials are great, and it would be great to talk a little bit more about what goes on behind the cameras that we all don't know about. But I want to start. Well, actually, I've given you a really brief introduction. Can you tell us, to start off with, a little bit more about what it is you do?
Yes, so I run the commercial division at TTA, which is essentially everything from TV campaigns to internet campaigns to music videos to still photography to some commercial voiceover work. It's essentially anything within the advertising world. I don't do a lot of modelling. I predominantly do, like I said, TV commercials, but yeah, that's essentially what I do, and I've done that for the past 4 years.
Oh, nice. So, I want to go all the way back to the very beginning. Maybe back to your childhood. I want to talk about how you fell in love with the arts. I know that you've done a bit of acting yourself. You have a beautiful voice. I follow you on Instagram and I've seen you singing. Can you talk a little bit more about how you got into this world?
Yeah, gosh, where do I start? I mean, when I was in primary school, I always did like the school nativities and stuff like that. And they always said, "Oh, you know, Jake's a natural singer," and yeah,
Yeah.
it's always sort of been in my bones. I don't know how or why, because the rest of my family aren't musical at all. So um, when I was in secondary school, I was always in like the school choir, and I always sang. And then my first ever musical was Les Miserables when
Oh, wow.
I was in year 9, I think. Must have been, yeah, and I was maybe 13 or 14, and it was after that where I just went, "This is amazing," and I fell in love with musical theatre. So one thing led to another. I ended up being part of a Welsh male voice choir called Only Boys Allowed, who came third on Britain's Got Talent in 2012, which, oh God,
Amazing.
that feels like a long time ago now, and I feel really old. But yeah, I did Britain's Got Talent with Only Boys Allowed, and then I went to university to study musical theatre, and that was at Bath Spa University. And then I did a master's degree at Royal Central School of Speech and Drama in music theatre, and then I was in the industry. So there we go. That's my sort of journey in a nutshell.
Amazing. And how is it that you actually got into the whole agent side? That for me is really interesting.
Yeah, well, it's funny because I think if you asked a lot of agents, you know, how they got into it, it would probably be a very similar journey, because I don't think when you're in school you ever hear anyone say, you know, when you say to someone, "What do
Mm,
you want to be when you're older?" You don't hear people say a talent agent.
yeah,
So
exactly.
it's just one of those things where a lot of agents, I think, accidentally fall into it, and then they end up loving that side of the industry, I suppose. So when I was at drama school, I was actually signed by TTA. as a musical theatre
Interesting.
actor, and then yeah, they were looking for an assistant.
Mhm.
I think, gosh, January or February 2017, and I lived relatively locally, and I
Mhm.
applied for the job. I got the job, and then yeah, I just one day, well, I was offered to run the commercial division and sort of build it up, and then 4 years later, I run a really successful commercial division. So yeah, it's one of those things where I was an assistant and then I worked my way up
Yeah.
essentially. So yeah,
So, coming back to you being a commercial agent, I think one question that my actor listeners are desperate to find out about is what is it you look for in a client? Because I think when it comes to signing actors to be represented as a commercial agent, it's, I guess, a little bit different to when you pick actors for screen and like film and TV work. Why is it that some actors work really well for commercials and some actors maybe don't?
gosh, that's a good question and a big question. So regarding um, what I look for in clients or signing clients, I mean the main communication channel is email. Um, so just really dedicate your email to the agency you're writing to, do your research, look on their website, look at their socials, see the kind of work they're doing. Regarding commercial work, um, if you're applying for a commercial agent, at TTA, we have different divisions, and I mainly represent people on both the musical theatre side and the acting side. And I have, you know, that's how we sort of work at TTA. But if you're applying for a sole commercial agent, then just explain to them why you are interested in commercials, what you can bring, who you've met, for example, in previous audition rooms. I think that would be the main advice from me, and also maybe send them material which lends to your casting type in
Mhm.
commercials. So even if you don't have a full on comedy showreel piece or any previous commercial work, put some stuff on tape that you think lends towards comedy or lends towards drama, that you can never um, make a mistake if you send something which you've done at home and you're proud of. And
Mhm.
yeah, that would be my main advice, is just really do your research and try and give people as much material as you can without overwhelming them, obviously, and sending them like 20 speeches.
So, do you think there is a difference in terms of actors who work particularly well for commercials? I mean, obviously, there are actors who can do both. Like, they get plenty of film and TV jobs and they also do really well commercially. But I mean, I know actors who are brilliant. Like, I've seen them on stage and, they can make an entire room silent and, you can hear a pin drop because people are just so emotionally involved with this actor. But then they go to one after the other commercial audition and they're just not getting the job. And a lot of the time, it's nothing to do with your acting. Can you talk a little bit more about that?
Well, regarding that side of things, it's a really interesting point because you're a wonderful actress, and I absolutely love representing you. And I've never ever watched a commercial tape and been like, "Oh, she could have done that better," or "I was
Mhm.
underwhelmed." And subsequently, you have done well. And I think you have to strike a really fine balance. And the main thing to remember with commercials is don't overthink it. Just sort
Mhm.
of just do it and then leave it into, let it go into the ether, because there's so much involved with the
Mhm.
commercial process. It's never one person's decision. It's down to the director. The casting director has somewhat of an input at the confirmation stage. It's down to the producer. It's down to the advertising agency. It's a whole collective of people who need to essentially agree on one actor.
Yeah.
So it is out of your control a lot of the time, and sometimes it is down to the best performance. The best performance wins, but most of the time it's down to pairings. If you're auditioning to be part of a
Mhm.
couple, for example, in a commercial, it might be that they really like the contrast in heights between someone really tall and someone really small. or they might want to averagely size people, in which case you might lose a job because of that circumstance. So my best advice for people in the room is to just be open and just be yourself. I think a lot of people put on the professional front when they're auditioning for people, and it's okay to relax, and it's okay to not be so casual that you're disregarding what you're in the room for. But you can just afford to walk in, do the job, be really open, be really intuitive, listen to what you're being given, follow the direction, have a bit of fun with it. They'll tell you to tone it back. They'll pull it back if they like your look and if they think you're really suitable for something. Your look has got you in the room in the first place. So yeah, and it's good to remember that you're not just auditioning for one particular project and that's the end of the
Mhm.
road. When you're called in for a commercial, and the same across the board with TV, film, theatre, you're auditioning for the casting director. If they know that you do a good job in the room, they are going to be more inclined to get you in future because they know that you're a reliable person who they can rely upon to come in the room, do a really good job. You might not necessarily be perfect for it, but one day they are going to be able to call you up and say, you've booked the job. So
Mhm.
you sometimes have to prove your worth, which I don't really like that saying. So, um, but if you prove that you're a hard worker, you're going to be good on set, you deserve a break. Then I do genuinely believe that people will keep fighting for you to have your break. So stick at it. That's my main advice.
Yeah, and I think that's so important to say because, especially with commercial auditions, you can have one audition after the other, after the other. It can drag on for a really long time. And sometimes, you feel like you're really, really close and, you almost have it. And then they change their mind and you need to remind yourself, it's not about you and your acting. And, there were so many people involved. Sometimes it just has to do with like you said, like someone is a bit too tall and someone's a bit too short, or you know,
Yeah.
I'm South Asian. Maybe they already have two South Asian women and they really wanted someone else, and it's just that.
Yeah, it's one of those things which it's sort of out of your control, and it's out of a lot of people's control, to be honest, because you might be the director's favourite after a recall or after a first round, and then the advertising agency might produce their shortlist, and they might not
Yeah,
particularly have liked you in
exactly.
that role. So
Mhm.
yeah, it's just one of those things which it's really good practice to when you come out of an audition, um, just leaving it behind.
Yeah.
Even if you go and buy yourself like a coffee afterwards and just have a sit down, think about it, digest it, and then move on.
Mhm.
But after a while, if you carry on going for them, I promise you, if you go for a good handful of them, you will soon get into the habit of being like, right, that's another one done. Let's forget
Yeah.
about it, because otherwise it will drive you crazy.
Yeah.
And likewise, and if a pencil, for example, is released, I will
Mhm.
always release a pencil. So
Mhm.
if you're on pencil for something and you
Yeah.
you haven't heard and it's maybe the day before, don't be afraid to drop your agent an email and just say, hey, can I check in regarding this? Because the chances are, I can't speak for other agents, but I imagine that, or I hope they are very similar to me, where I will always release a pencil if I have had
Mhm.
the news to release it. So don't be afraid to check in with your agent if it's the day before, 2 days before, and you need to plan
Yeah.
your life. That is completely acceptable to ask them if they can release a
Mhm.
pencil. So yeah.
Yeah, and speaking about pencils, for anybody who maybe does not know about the acting industry and they're like, what on earth do you mean by that? Can you talk a little bit about what a pencil is?
Sure. So a pencil is essentially just you making a short list and penciling, like, ensuring that you're going to be available for a period of time or a block of dates. So, for example, if you've been penciled for a shoot which is happening on the 20th of April, you need to ensure that you are able to do that shoot on the 20th of April if
Yeah.
you're confirmed. So they're basically preempting that you might end up booking the job, and then they don't want to encounter any availability issues once you've been confirmed, because then they have to go completely back to the drawing board and spend a
Mhm.
whole load more money recasting or making new decisions. So that's essentially what penciling is.
Nice. And there's a little misconception that sometimes getting a pencil isn't a good thing. Like some people feel like, oh, if I've been penciled, it means that I'm second best or like I'm a
Oh
backup
no.
choice. Um, so being penciled is definitely a good thing. It means that.
It's common practice to pencil people for
Mhm.
commercial campaigns because Um, it's difficult to say how many people are on a pencil at a time. It
Mhm.
could be 10, it could be 6, it could be
Yeah.
3. It completely depends on the scale of the project and, who you're working with essentially. So it's never ever a bad thing to be on pencil. That's a fantastic thing. And yeah, remember getting an audition
Mhm.
with the size of the industry. Spotlight did a user survey with us at the agency a few years ago, and they said that at that time there were over 60,000 people registered on Spotlight.
Wow.
That has probably increased over
Mhm.
the time since we did that user survey with them. So there might be somewhat 70,000 people on Spotlight. So getting an audition for a commercial or for any project is absolutely incredible because there are thousands of people
Mhm.
submitted on each role. Getting penciled for a commercial is absolutely incredible again
Yeah.
because they might have auditioned anything between 20 and 40 people per role. With self-taping, they probably can afford to see a few more. So yeah,
Mhm.
getting penciled is a huge achievement. So never think that it's a negative or second best. You're doing well.
Fab. So we have covered a lot, I think, in this discussion, and I've gotten so much out of it. Before we wrap this up, one of the last questions I really wanted to talk to you about was do you have any advice for new actors? Because you acted yourself, as you said, you're represented by TTA. Um, I mean, a lot of actors do go to drama school, and then there's quite a lot of help and support during their learning there for what they can do afterwards. But I didn't go to drama school, and I think for me, it was quite a long journey into it because I didn't know where to go at first. And I went to like a lot of classes and asked for a lot of help and support with other people that I met there. Do you have any advice on the best way about going into the industry?
Sure, and the main thing to note about this is the fact that this is just my opinion. This whole podcast has been
Yeah.
my opinion. Other agents might think
Mhm.
completely different things to me. So yeah, this is just what my practice and what I've experienced. And I went to drama school just because it was I didn't know in the musical theatre world how to get a foot in the door and how to progress and make that move to London without having that name behind me.
Yeah.
And did serve me well for the time that I was out of drama school and auditioning and performing and the like. So it can going to drama school can definitely be helpful. A lot of people feel like they need to go to drama school just to experience being within a class and doing ensemble work and just gaining acting ability. It can have adverse effects, not all the time, granted, but some people can go to drama school and, drama schools can strip everything away that makes them unique and that makes them special, and they can somewhat neutralize them, I suppose, which again isn't a bad thing because it would work for certain projects, but sometimes people do have a real raw talent and a raw ability to just act.
Yeah.
And yeah, we never ever discriminate against people who have not been to drama school.
Mhm.
We represent talent based on a whole host of different reasons, like whether we are currently taking on people. That's a big thing, because we do
Yeah.
like to invest and really nurture our existing client list. Whether we've got someone similar on our books already, that's a big factor. Um, and yeah, it can be a whole host of different reasons, but we represent an equal mix of drama school graduates and people who have never done a day's training in their life. All you have to do is evidence your ability and show your willingness to learn and adapt, and your passion for the industry is such a key thing, I believe.
Mhm.
And for me personally, I like to see that people are hard workers and people are passionate and people are willing and they're able to learn and they're able to take advice and they want to they
Yeah.
have a goal and they want to strive and achieve it. So yeah, my main advice to people is don't be afraid to reach out and apply to agents, but put something down on tape. Don't be afraid to not get in touch until you can afford to go and get a full-blown show reel done, because you don't want to get a show reel done if you don't know what you're doing.
Yeah.
Put something down on tape at home, a self-tape, a monologue, something so they can see what you look like on camera. And that would often be enough for me to gauge whether I could represent somebody at this current moment in time. So yeah, my main advice would be is just do your research, and you don't always have to go to drama school. Musical theatre is a little bit different. I think going to a musical theatre course can really help you get in the door for certain things, because different training holds different,
Mm.
credibility. But yeah, in terms of acting and screen acting, it's a completely open book, and casting directors as well are really open to see people who have never trained at a drama school. I think, times are definitely changing, and yeah, just
Ah,
do what you feel is best.
thank you. I think a lot of people will find that really, really hopeful. I know that a lot of friends of mine have, they really get caught up on the fact that they didn't go to drama school. And especially if you want to get into acting a little bit later in life, you worry about whether you, especially if you've got things like kids and a mortgage, whether you've got the time to sacrifice to go back and get a drama degree. So it's really nice
Yeah,
to
and
hear.
the main thing to bear in mind is that there is no sell by date on it. Like, you can
Mm,
literally go
exactly.
back into acting whenever you want. The main problem you will encounter is, without a sufficient amount of credits, it will be difficult to get on Spotlight over the age of 25. If you're under 25, you
Mm.
can get on with agent representation. So that is problematic. Um, but yeah, my main advice, if you're currently struggling to get on Spotlight, is to join sites like Mandy or Star Now, or
Yeah.
Backstage, I believe, is another one, and to just try and source work, and build up your credentials, and then one day you can email them and go, right, I've got what you've asked for, let me on. So yeah, there are always alternatives if you're willing to put the work in and graft, for sure.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Jake. You have been an absolute joy to speak to, and I appreciate your time so, so much. I know you're a very busy man.
Well, you can say that again. But no, thank you. I've had a lovely evening with you, and I really appreciate it. And I hope that, what people can take away from this is somewhat helpful. So yeah, I really appreciate the opportunity.
Oh, I really think they're going to get a lot out of that. So, before I let you go, can my viewers and listeners find you online anywhere?
Yes, I am on social media, on Twitter and Instagram. My tag is at Jake M James. M is for mother. So Jake
Oh,
M James.
nice. Thank you so much, Jake. I will let you enjoy the rest of your evening. Thank you for giving me your time, and I hope you enjoy the conversation.
I did. It's interesting, sort of putting things in my head out loud,
Yeah.
because I don't ever do that. So yeah, thank you for the opportunity again. Yeah, I hope I make sense.
You did, you did, I promise. And thank you, everybody at home, for tuning in to another podcast session with me. I really hope you enjoyed that. Join me next time to hear me with my final guest of the season. So, thank you for listening to all of the podcasts this season, and I'll be back with season 2 in a few months' time. So, thank you and goodbye.